Hi folks, today's video lecture is about credibility and oral citation. So here we see the rhetorical triangle, which was developed by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, who was a student of his ever so slightly more ancient teacher, Plato. The rhetorical triangle is a means of visualizing and understanding the three key components of a structured argument. You ought to refer back to this video from time to time throughout the course, particularly when you're working on your persuasive speech, but for today's lecture, we're primarily concerned with the top triangle, so let's start there with ethos. Meaning one's character, ethics, trustworthiness, or if you want to think about it in terms of role-playing games, like Fallout for example, it's your reputational score. You build your credibility through confidence in your delivery, citing credible sources, and self-presentation. Next, we have logos, logic and reason. It pertains to reasoning and argumentation. This can be shaped by the structure and organization of a speech, but primarily it's about proof, logic, facts, reasoning, the evidence that you use to support a claim. Where ethos is about the credibility of the speaker, logos is centered on the message of a speech. And then this finally brings us to pathos, Greek for emotion. Pathos is about the audience's feelings and affective experiences and responses to a message. What you say and how you say it can make others feel sad or angry. It can stir up memories. You can motivate them with your positive and negative appeals to emotions. This is accomplished through tapping into an audience's hopes, dreams, beliefs, feelings, and through the power of storytelling. So how do you go about building your credibility? Well, here are a few suggestions and best practices. First, dress the part, or more to the point, dress appropriately. Read the social cues, understand the context. Let that determine what you wear. You'll pick your attire based upon the communicative setting in which you'll be presenting, whether that's giving a speech at an informal gathering or an interview. As for this class, you're at home. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Everything is terrible, including the fact that most Americans are now growing mullets. So you do not have to wear a business suit or dress up specifically for this course. Use your best judgment and put an effort and do your best, the best that you can do right now to dress up for a speech. Project confidence, that's number 2. So fill the room with your voice. Speak clearly at whatever feels like an appropriate volume. Don't rush, pace yourself. Pause here and there to give your words and frankly yourself room to breathe. If you're terrified or nervous, don't give in to that as much as you can. Do your best to perform a kind of calmness, at least on the outside. Over time and with practice, you'll get better at this. Trust me, I'm someone who's generally speaking quite shy, but my entire job is speaking in front of people every single day, and you get better at it. As an undergraduate, I would nearly pass out at the thought of having to raise my hand in class, and now I teach every day. So number 3, maintain a healthy, that's an important word, healthy level of eye contact. Don't stare down a single individual as if they owe you money. Look around and engage people. Next up, state your credentials and establish a personal connection to the topic at hand. Talk about who you are, your training, education, experience. Basically, ask yourself this question: why should anyone listen to you? Answer said question, and that should set you up on the right path of establishing credibility. Finally, employ reputable outside experts, authorities, and institutions as sources in your work. Your speeches, particularly informative speeches or persuasive speeches, need citations and quality research. Sure, on Facebook and Reddit, folks will post any sort of totally random conspiracy theory with absolutely no proper research by non-experts to capitalize on the public's fears and uncertainties, but not you. You're better than that. Proper research and sources will produce a better final product. Now, I'll make this part brief. Let's talk a bit about oral citation. When you're delivering a presentation, you're going to need to cite various sources as part of not only building your argument, but also establishing your credibility as a speaker. I have 2 suggestions here that I want to make very plain. First, variation is your friend. All too often, when I'm listening to students give public presentations, I'll hear this phrase over and over: according to. A few seconds later, there it is again, according to X scholar. A minute later, boom, there it is again, according to. It's really important to cite your sources orally. You have to do this. But in terms of delivery, you're also going to want to mix things up. But more on that in a second. Citational practice is kind of like academic or professional name dropping. And when I say this, I don't mean this as any sort of slight. You are letting your audience know that you know the relevant scholarship, studies, institutions, ideas, and so forth that will make you an informed and credible speaker. So when you are name dropping in your speeches, you need to vary up how you're going about doing that. You don't want people to get distracted by or about your repetition, but rather you want them to focus on what you're saying. So let me make this more concrete with some examples. One time in your speech, you might say something like, according to a 2019 study conducted by the Pew Research Center. Next time, you might try something like this. In his seminal work, Keywords, Vocabulary of Culture and Society, Raymond Williams, ... Then say what he does. Once again, you might try this out after that. A 2020 NPR study found that, and so on, right? See, there's variation. You're citing 3 things or 4 things, but you're varying up how you're setting that up. You want to provide just enough information to inform, and let's not kid ourselves, to impress your audience, and then you're done. So it's all up to you to build your credibility through your delivery, your self-presentation, your citational practices, and organization. Be confident, dress the part, name drop with style, and vary it up from time to time. And do good research. In order to do good research, you're going to need to find good quality, reputable sources. Okay, so what kinds of sources should you be using in your speeches? Both for this class, but generally, right? All through your educational training and experience, but also your professional life. Here are a few. As an APSU student, you have access to these and other such article databases. You have access to thousands of ebooks, archives, and so on. I would recommend at first that you just check these out. So use the search function in each of these resources to see what you find. Please feel free to send me an email as you're trying to find resources and think about speech topics. Navigating your way through resources is very challenging. So here we have JSTOR in the upper left-hand corner, Project Muse on the right, Google Scholar on the left bottom, EBSCOhost. Give these a look first. If you've never heard of these, you've probably heard of Google Scholar more than the other 3. Give those a look. Now, as far as news resources or websites may go, not all content is created equal. While I believe that all text, media, and instances of human communication have an agenda, whether explicit or implicit, some news organizations and websites are so biased that you just want to stay away from them, frankly. If you cite something from Breitbart or maybe Vox, for instance, your audience, including me as the person who's evaluating your work, might suddenly begin to question your credibility as a speaker or researcher. You do not want that, and more than that, you don't want to lie or spread false information. As for websites, you should generally avoid .coms and other sort of commercial enterprises because their clear goal is to do whatever is necessary to move product, increase market share, and to establish and maintain their brand. The profit motive often conflicts with a commitment to truth and justice, but that's a topic for another class. So I would recommend that you go to the Felix G. Woodward Libraries page on APSU, our APSU website. Just Google the library name and you'll find it. Hover your cursor over the Search and Find tab, and then I'd recommend you explore these 3 tabs first at least. The databases, find periodicals, and research guide options. So click on each of those, explore, and play around. I'll be providing more info on finding resources later down the line. I do know that this is an accelerated course format, and so I know that you're not going to have the kind of time allowances to conduct the same level of research that you would during a full semester. I'm very, very aware. So do your very best, do some digging, read and learn, and start working on your speeches. Thanks, and have a great day.